Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans, Proverbs 16:3. You've been working hard, waking up early, carrying responsibilities that few around you truly understand. And even so, the return hasn't come the way you expected. I know the weight you're feeling, that quiet frustration building up each week with no results, and that bitter sense that you're doing everything right. Yet something still feels out of place. I'm speaking directly to you now. Breathe with me. Let go for a moment of the pressure and the overload of goals. Here in this place of wisdom and rest, there's a counsel that can calm your heart and renew your spirit. I want you to understand that this moment isn't just another video. It's a sacred pause, a conversation between you and the wisdom the Lord entrusted to me. Throughout this journey, I will guide you through words inspired by God that I wrote in Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Song of Songs. Not just as scattered verses, but as a map, a divine blueprint of restoration for your mind, your routine, and your spirit. During our walk, I'll take pauses with you, moments of communion. In them, we'll breathe, pray, and surrender together the burdens we were never meant to carry alone. And in the end, you won't just have heard a word, you will have reordered within yourself what was out of place. And most importantly, you will have remembered that God never abandons the plans of those who fear Him. It's important that you know this from the start. I will speak to you as if I were Solomon himself, a king who ruled with wisdom because he first learned to kneel before God. Don't be alarmed by the intensity. There is love in every word. Let's begin by asking the Lord to straighten what is crooked, to calm the racing thoughts, and to teach us to trust in the right timing for everything. Father, I ask that this word may find an open heart, that it may enter like a balm and become an anchor in the midst of haste and weariness. If this journey resonates with you, if you want to walk alongside other God-fearing men who are seeking wisdom for their lives, like this video and subscribe to this channel. Here, with each new word, I'll be waiting for you. Entregar e ordenar. Quando o plano se curva, Deus firma os passos. Let's open the Bible to Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. Acknowledge the Lord in all your ways, and He will make your path straight. What I meant to teach here is simple and profound. The man who fears God doesn't need all the details of the road before taking the first step. He only needs to trust. And this trust, this real surrender, it's not just mental, it's practical. It's revealed when you choose every single day to place your work, your business, your relationships, and even your mistakes into the hands of the Lord. Not trusting means trying to control everything. Trusting means planning with wisdom and leaving room for God to redirect the path. Let's continue with Proverbs chapter 15, verse 22. Without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors they succeed. I said this because I saw over the years that most plans don't collapse from lack of effort. They fall due to a lack of shared wisdom. A wise man does not isolate himself with his ideas. He seeks counsel, not to pass off his decisions, but to align his heart with other voices who also fear the Lord. When you share a plan with someone who fears God, you are inviting heaven into your strategy. Now I'll read Proverbs chapter 16, verse 9. A man's heart may plan his way, but the Lord is the one who directs his steps. This means that planning is important, but it will only be established if it aligns with the will of the Lord. You can spend hours adjusting your goals, but if your plan isn't grounded in eternal principles, it will not endure. A wise man understands that plans may change, and that doesn't mean failure, it means divine adjustment. Flexibility in planning is often the clearest sign that you trust God more than your own strategy. Let's move forward now to deepen this understanding with living practice. Many say they've surrendered their plans to God, but their hands remain bound by anxiety, haste, and the need for control. What the Lord taught me is that surrender without reordering is not surrender, it's escape. A man who fears God doesn't just let go and fold his arms. He lets go and bows, to reorganize, to listen, to change direction if needed. That is wisdom. And it's what is missing in many plans that quietly sink. You need to imagine your life as a structure built on 3 tables: a table of prayer, where you present your intentions before God with reverence. A table of counsel, where you listen to the wise ones God has placed around you. And a table of execution, where you rise each day and do what must be done with diligence. If one of those tables is empty, your plan will wobble. And there's something I must warn you about seriously. Exhaustion makes a man promise more than he can deliver. Ecclesiastes chapter 5 shows us that vows made in the heat of anxiety create guilt that weighs even heavier. God does not want impulsive promises. He wants truth. He wants concrete steps born from a sincere heart. Following in this direction, let's talk about practices that sustain this true surrender. Consecrate your first hour of the day, not merely as a ritual, but as an act of spiritual governance. In that first hour, surrender your goals for the day to the Lord, and choose one difficult decision you need to obey. Just one, but make it real. This small daily gesture is what shapes the character of a wise man. And understand this, every good construction has two floors. The upper floor represents the eternal principles that never change. The lower is made up of tasks, goals, and deadlines that adapt over time. When the lower floor tries to uphold the upper, anxiety is born. But when the principles support the tasks, peace comes. Think of it like this. Your routine is like a scale. Prayer tilts your heart toward heaven. Your checklist straightens your feet on the path. And when the two are aligned, you walk without stumbling. I will now read to you a passage from Song of Songs chapter 2, verses 10 through 13. My beloved said to me, "Arise, my darling. Come with me, my beautiful one. See, the winter has passed. The rains are over and gone. Flowers appear on the earth. The season of singing has come. The cooing of doves is heard in our land. The fig tree forms its early fruit. The blossoming vines spread their fragrance. Arise, come with me, my beautiful one. Man who fears the Lord, listen closely." This passage is a call from heaven. It's as if the Lord himself were calling you to rise from apathy, from paralysis, from discouragement, saying the season has changed. There is a time for everything. And when you don't recognize that winter has passed, you stay too bundled up for days that demand action. You keep bracing for a cold that's already gone, and you miss the blooming that's right in front of you. I wrote this to teach you that the wise man perceives the time, and when he hears the voice of the beloved, he gets up. I will now read to you from Proverbs chapter 19, verse 21. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. I wrote this to remind you that even the most well-crafted plans can fail when they are born from haste or vanity. A God-fearing man learns over time that planning is not just about deciding what to do. It is about aligning his steps with what God is willing to sustain. The Lord does not bless every plan. He establishes what is born out of truth, out of reverence, and out of submission. You may have brilliant ideas, but if the purpose behind them is selfish or disconnected from the Father's will, they will not endure. Very well, now I want you to open with me to Proverbs chapter 4, verses 25 to 27. Let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. Give careful thought to the paths for your feet, and all your ways will be sure. Do not turn to the right or the left. Keep your foot from evil. I want you to understand what I meant by this. A wise man does not waste time comparing himself to others, nor does he live trapped by what others are doing. He looks firmly at the mission God has entrusted to him and adjusts his steps each morning. When the eyes get distracted, the feet stray. And when the feet stray, the plan collapses. So if you want to walk in safety, align your eyes before your steps. I will now jump to Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verses 13 and 14. Consider what God has done. Who can straighten what he has made crooked? When times are good, be happy, but when times are bad, consider this. God has made the one as well as the other, so that no one can discover anything about their future. What I meant here is that wisdom also acknowledges mystery. There are good days and bad days, and both are part of God's process. A God-fearing man does not fall into despair when the bad day comes. He understands that there are lessons hidden even in silence, even behind closed doors, even in delays. You don't need to understand everything now, but you must remain teachable. Now I want to read to you a prayer my father David recorded in Psalms, chapter 90, verse 17. May the favor of the Lord our God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. This is the plea of a heart that works, but knows that human effort needs divine blessing. You may build, yes. You may strive, yes. But ask the Lord to establish the work, because without him everything turns to sand. What David meant to teach here is that lasting prosperity is the fruit of the partnership between obedience and grace. Now then, let's go to Song of Songs, chapter 4, verses 12 to 16. You are a garden locked up, my sister, my bride. You are a spring enclosed, a sealed fountain. Your plants are an orchard of pomegranates, with choice fruits, with henna and nard, saffron and calamus, cinnamon and myrrh with all the finest spices. You are a fountain of gardens and a well of living water, flowing from Lebanon. Awake, north wind, and come, south wind. Blow on my garden, that its fragrance may spread everywhere. Let my beloved come into his gardeners and taste its choice fruits. This metaphor is not merely poetic, it is a profound revelation. I wrote this passage to teach that a successful plan is like a garden. It needs to be enclosed, nurtured, and only then will it receive the right winds. A wise man does not expose his plans prematurely. He protects them with prayer, discretion, and faithfulness. And when everything is ready, God sends the right wind. See, the secret that builds confidence does not lie in knowing what will happen tomorrow, but in keeping the heart aligned, even when what you see makes no sense. When I accepted that even the bad day came from God, I began to walk with less fear and with more reverence. A God-fearing man is not in search of shortcuts, and he walks steadily, even when the road seems longer. What this means is that if you are planting in truth, even if it takes time, the harvest will come. So, review your plan weekly with this question. Is this step grounded in principle, or is it rushing out of haste? This question may save you from decisions that seemed urgent, but were not right. What seems unavoidable is often just noisy. But what is right, even if quiet, remains. Now I want to talk to you about how to keep that order with consistency. Before accepting any new task, look at your consecrated schedule and ask, is this aligned with the purpose God gave me? If the answer is vague, wait. A wise man only moves forward when there is clarity. And also review your alliances. Who are the counselors speaking over your garden? Not every compliment is a blessing. Not every piece of advice is safe. Choose to walk with few, but who fear God. Counselors who love truth more than your affection. Remember this, God's promise is not magic. It is fulfilled through principles and consistency. And that is the path that establishes what you are building, step by step, decision by decision, day after day. Rhythm that sustains, working with peace, harvesting with consistency. Open with me now to Ecclesiastes, chapter 9, verses 7 to 10. Go, eat your bread with joy, and drink your wine with a cheerful heart. For God has already approved what you do. Let your garments always be white, and never let oil be lacking on your head. Live joyfully with the wife you love. All the days of this fleeting life that God has given you under the sun. For this is your portion in life and in your hard work. Whatever your hand finds to do it with all your strength. For where you are going, to the realm of the dead, there is no work, no planning, no knowledge, no wisdom. I wrote these words to break the myth that living for God means living heavy, serious, rigid. The man who fears the Lord knows how to rejoice. He works with purpose, celebrates the bread he has, and honors every minute of his existence. The lightness here is not superficial. It is the fruit of someone who knows he is doing what God has approved. And if he has already approved what you do, why walk in guilt? Let's now turn to Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verses 1 to 6. Cast your bread upon the waters, and after many days you will find it. Share with 7, even with 8. For you do not know what disaster may come upon the land. If the clouds are full, they will pour rain upon the earth. And if a tree falls to the south or to the north, wherever it falls, there it will lie. Whoever watches the wind will not plant, and whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. Just as you do not understand the path of the wind, or how bones are formed in the womb of a pregnant woman, so you cannot understand the works of God, who makes all things. Sow in the morning, and in the evening do not let your hands rest, for you do not know which seed will prosper, or if both will do equally well. What I meant to teach here is simple, but requires courage. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Some say they are waiting on God, but in truth, they are afraid to act. Those who look too much at the sky with suspicion fail to plant in the soil that lies right beneath their feet. The faith of the wise man does not paralyze, it moves him, even without guarantees. Now open with me to Proverbs chapter 14, verse 8. The wisdom of the prudent is to understand their way, but the folly of fools is deception. This is a principle that changes how you live, because the fool is deceived by his own excuses. But the prudent one has the courage to examine where he is stepping. He doesn't shy away from the truth about his own rhythm, his own routine, his own procrastination. When I wrote this proverb, I was saying, true discernment begins when you allow yourself to see what is truly holding you back and what is merely camouflaging fear. I want you to go with me now to Proverbs chapter 20, verse 24. A man's steps are directed by the Lord. So how then can anyone understand their own way? Here lies the balance. You may not understand everything now, but that is no excuse to not walk. God directs while you obey. The man who fears the Lord learns to walk with reverence, even without total clarity. He does his part, he plants, he distributes, and he trusts. And now, wise man, listen to this passage from Song of Songs, chapter 5, verses 2 to 6. I slept, but my heart was awake. I heard the voice of my beloved knocking, "Open to me, my sister, my darling, my dove, my flawless one. For my head is drenched with dew, my hair with the dampness of the night. I had taken off my robe. How could I put it on again? I had washed my feet. How could I soil them again? My beloved thrust his hand through the latch opening, and my heart pounded for him. I arose to open for my beloved, but my hands dripped with myrrh, my fingers with flowing myrrh on the handles of the bolt. I opened for my beloved, but he had left, he was gone. My heart sank at his departure. I looked for him, but did not find him. I called him, but he did not answer. Man who fears the Lord. This is one of the most powerful images I've ever written, a living metaphor about lost time, hesitation, indecision. When God calls you to act, and you hesitate out of fear, laziness, or vanity, the moment may pass. The invitation was real, but the delay had a cost. The wise man knows that some doors do not stay open forever. What I'm saying is that there is a subtle lie that paralyzes many. The idea that waiting on God means doing nothing. It doesn't. Waiting on the Lord means continuing to sow, even when there's no sign of rain. It means trusting that invisible seeds are germinating. It means continuing to serve, even without applause. You need to discern whether your silence is reverence, or if it is fear disguised as prudence. The man who fears the Lord does not call procrastination patience. He knows that faithfulness also has a rhythm. So here is a simple rule I've kept for myself, the rule of two hands. With one hand, I work on what is visible. With the other, I entrust to the Lord what is beyond my reach. This is the dance of wisdom, action and trust, strength and rest, initiative and submission. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 11, verse 14. Without wise direction the people fall, but in the multitude of counselors there is safety. You see, a wise man does not make decisions in solitude. He does not rely solely on his own opinion. He seeks voices who fear God, people who have walked similar paths and who can warn him before he stumbles. I wrote this because I realized how pride in the heart leads man to haste, and haste to ruin. Wisdom lies in seeking someone who can confront you before life does. Let's now go to Proverbs chapter 24, verse 27. Prepare your work in the field first. Take good care of everything that needs to be done, and only then build your house. This principle is direct. Before you desire result, prepare the ground. Many fail not for lack of effort, but for lack of preparation. They want harvest without tending the soil. They want to prosper without checking their tools. The man who fears God understands that the rush to build without foundation is wasteful and sometimes tragic. So, before you rush into what seems urgent, take care of what is essential. Now let me lead you to Proverbs chapter 4, verses 7 to 9. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore acquire wisdom. Yes, and with all you have, acquire understanding. Esteem her, and she will exalt you. If you embrace her, she will honor you. She will place a beautiful crown on your head and give you an ornament of glory. What I meant by this is that wisdom has a cost, but it's worth every effort. It's not just about accumulating information, but forming discernment with what God has already taught you. The honor a wise man receives comes because he chose to follow counsel, apply principles, and maintain reverence even when no one was watching. I will now open Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 10. If the iron is dull and no one sharpens it, more strength is needed, but wisdom brings success. I wrote this clearly to show that effort that without strategy exhausts and bears no fruit. How many times have you worn yourself out? Not because there's a lack of effort, but because you're using a dull blade. A wise man pauses, sharpens, reviews, asks, listens. He knows that the time to prepare avoids the time to repair. So I want to encourage you today to look at your tools, your schedule, your budget, your time, your habits. Are they sharp or just moving? Now I want to read a psalm from my father David. Psalm 32, verse 8. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you and watch over you. This is a beautiful promise, but notice, God promises counsel to those who are willing to be guided. The man who fears God learns to be silent when God speaks, and to walk when God commands. And he knows that being guided requires surrender, trust, and humility. Now understand with me why so many get lost, even when they have access to wisdom. The answer lies in that dull iron, in the routine that is never reviewed, in habits that are never assessed, in goals that don't go through a spiritual filter. The wise man doesn't keep living just because it's always been this way. He pauses, evaluates, realigns. And here enters a practice I kept for myself that I want to share with you, the 3-layer plan. Today's layer, one crucial task, the one that, if completed, will honor the Lord with your time. Weekly layer, 2 areas to sharpen, 1 practical skill, and 1 part of your character. Quarterly layer, 3 measurable goals that are founded on principles, not just desires. This structure helps me avoid drifting, and it can help you too, because God guides. Yes, He guides. But He guides those who allow themselves to be guided, those who organize what they have, who manage with reverence, who prioritize faithfulness above outcomes. Alliances that sustain plans, when strong bonds prevent ruin. Come with me now to Proverbs chapter 17, beginning at verse 9 and continuing through 17. Whoever forgives an offense fosters love, but whoever keeps bringing up the issue separates close friends. A rebuke impresses a discerning person, more than 100 lashes a fool. Evildoers foster rebellion. The messenger of death will be sent against them. Better to meet a bear robbed of her cubs than a fool in his folly. Whoever repays good with evil, evil will never leave their house. Starting a quarrel is like breaching a dam. So drop the matter before a dispute breaks out. Acquitting the guilty and condemning the innocent, both are detestable to the Lord. Of what use is money in the hand of a fool, since he has no desire to get wisdom? A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a time of adversity. This entire passage was written with a single focus, to show that your alliances either uphold or sabotage your plans. The wise man is not only someone who chooses the right friends, but also someone who knows how to be the right kind of friend. He is not a flatterer, nor does he close himself off to correction. He values truth more than comfort, because he knows that those who love confront. And he also knows that those who only praise can be a disguised trap. That's why I say, alliances that can't handle truth can't sustain a future. Now open with me to Proverbs chapter 27, verses 5 through 10. Better is open rebuke than hidden love. Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. One who is full loathes honey from the comb, but to the hungry even what is bitter tastes sweet. Like a bird that flees its nest is anyone who wanders from home. Perfume and incense bring joy to the heart, and the pleasantness of a friend springs from their heartfelt advice. Do not forsake your friend or a friend of your family, and do not go to your relative's house when disaster strikes you. Better a neighbor nearby than a relative far away. These words show that true relationships are sources of wisdom and protection. The God-fearing man cultivates sincere counsel and has the courage to hear what he wouldn't like to, but needs to. It is better to be wounded by a friend than flattered by someone who seeks your fall. Value the relationships that can handle truth, because they are the ones that push you forward when you're about to stop. Now let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verses 13 through 18. I also saw this example of wisdom under the sun, and it greatly impressed me. There was once a small city with only a few people in it, and a powerful king came against it. He surrounded it and built huge siege works against it. Now there lived in that city a poor man but wise, and he saved the city by his wisdom. But nobody remembered that poor man. So I said, wisdom is better than strength. But the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are no longer heeded. The quiet words of the wise are more to be heeded than the shouts of a ruler of fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. What I wanted to show here is that quiet wisdom is more valuable than noisy power, and that true bonds often come disguised in simplicity. The wise man does not disregard advice based on the appearance of the one giving it, and he does not trust alliances just because they shine to the eyes. In times of pressure, it is better to listen to a silent counsel from a faithful one than to be surrounded by hollow applause. Now let's go to Song of Songs chapter 7, verses 10 through 13. I belong to my beloved, and his desire is for me. Come, my beloved, let us go to the countryside. Let us spend the night in the villages. Let us go early to the vineyards to see if the vines have budded, if their blossoms have opened, and if the pomegranates are in bloom. There I will give you my love. The mandrakes send out their fragrance. And at our door is every delicacy, both new and old, that I have stored up for you, my beloved. This passage is more than poetic. It is prophetic. The relationship here is not passive. It is joint action. There is movement, direction, planning, and surrender. The God-fearing man understands that healthy alliances are not just emotional, they are productive. The woman described here acts, observes, prepares, and gives herself. And the beloved in desiring her joins her in this building. If your alliance does not bear fruit, if there is no mutual planning, pursuit of purpose, and joint decision-making, then something is out of place. Finally, I want you to open with me to Deuteronomy chapter 8, verses 11 through 18. Be careful that you do not forget the Lord your God, failing to observe his commands, his laws, and his decrees. Otherwise, when you eat and are satisfied, when you build fine houses and settle down, and when your herds and flocks grow large and your silver and gold increase, then your heart will become proud, and you will forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. He led you through the vast and dreadful wilderness, that thirsty and waterless land with its venomous snakes and scorpions. He brought you water out of hard rock. He gave you manna to eat in the wilderness, something your ancestors had never known, to humble and test you so that in the end it might go well with you. You may say to yourself, my power and the strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me. But remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms his covenant, which he swore to your ancestors. These words are a warning, a reminder that all prosperity comes from the faithfulness of God, not from our strength. The wise man understands that blessing is not an end in itself. It is part of a covenant, and true alliances must be cultivated, remembered, celebrated. Do not forget who sustained you when you had nothing, and that the same God who gave you strength can also remind you to remain humble. If you've been following me this far, then you already understand that relational wisdom is an invisible foundation that sustains your plans. But I want to go further. Let's talk about what I call the relational budget. Have you ever stopped to consider that time and attention are valuable resources, just as valuable as money? And that, just like a financial budget, they need to be well managed. A wise man doesn't waste his emotional energy on alliances that weaken his purpose. He doesn't invest in bonds that drain his faith, his clarity, his vision. He examines, does this conversation build me up or wear me down? Does this companionship draw me closer to God or push me away? Does this partnership move my plan forward or distract me from the mission? Just as you plan your finances, plan who you walk with, and prioritize relationships that challenge you to grow with integrity. And here enters another powerful principle. Agreements must be made before God, not out of religiosity, but out of spiritual responsibility. When you make promises without consulting the Lord, you become a prisoner of your own words. But when you seal a commitment under the fear of the Lord, you assume a covenant sustained not by your strength, but by the presence of the Lord. The man who fears God does not compromise his word for convenience. He fulfills it, because he fears the God who heard him make the vow. And more, he avoids empty solemnity, those beautiful formalities that lack truth. So, never forget what was written in Deuteronomy. It is the Lord who gives you strength to produce wealth, and this is tied to his faithfulness to the covenant. In other words, even the growth you experience is a consequence of the covenant he made with you. And if God honors his commitments, the least he expects is that you honor yours. I want to open now with Proverbs chapter 6, verses 1 to 5. My son, if you have put up security for your neighbor, if you have shaken hands in pledge for a stranger, and you have been trapped by what you said, ensnared by the words of your mouth, then do this, my son, to free yourself. Since you have fallen into your neighbor's hands, go to the point of exhaustion, and give your neighbor no rest. Allow no sleep to your eyes, no slumber to your eyelids. Free yourself, like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, like a bird from the snare of the fowler. I wrote this because I've seen many men become prisoners of promises made out of anxiety, to please others, or out of fear of saying no. The wise man understands that he should never give guarantees before understanding the risks. And if he already has, then the humility to ask for forgiveness and to correct the mistake, and to free himself as soon as possible, is a sign of reverence to the Lord. Better to appear weak for backing down than arrogant for persisting. Now let's go to Proverbs chapter 18, verses 12 to 15. Before a downfall, the heart is haughty, but humility comes before honor. To answer before listening, that is folly and shame. The human spirit can endure in sickness, but a crushed spirit who can bear? The heart of the discerning acquires knowledge, for the ears of the wise seek it out. See, it's the rush to appear strong that precedes ruin. The God-fearing man doesn't rush to answer. He listens, considers, prays, and only then speaks. He understands that true strength lies in the ability to listen, to discern, to retreat when necessary. Pride wants to win quickly. Wisdom wants to win rightly. Now I want to read with you Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verses 12 to 14. Words from the mouth of the wise are gracious, but fools are consumed by their own lips. At the beginning their words are folly, at the end they are wicked madness. And fools multiply words. No one knows what is coming. Who can tell someone else what will happen after them? Did you understand what I meant to show here? The fool is a chatterbox, talks too much, makes promises without thinking, and gets into trouble because he doesn't know when to stay quiet. The wise man, on the other hand, speaks sparingly, speaks with purpose, and when he doesn't know what to say, chooses silence, because the silence of the righteous is worth more than the shouts of the fool. Now turn back a few pages with me to Song of Songs, chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. Like an apple tree among the trees of the forest, is my beloved among the young men. I delight to sit in his shade, and his fruit is sweet to my taste. Let him lead me to the banquet hall, and let his banner over me be love. This passage carries a deep beauty because it shows the rest found in a secure covenant. The woman finds shade, sweetness, and celebration in the presence of one who protects her with love. The wise man offers that kind of covenant, firmness that doesn't oppress, tenderness that doesn't weaken, purpose that doesn't suffocate. The home, society, business, everything flourishes when love is the banner and presence is protection. Finally, let's read a verse from my father David, Psalm 90, verse 12. Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. This request is simple, yet profound. The God-fearing man knows that time doesn't come back, and that blind haste can lead him to waste precious days. To number the days is to live with purpose, to record provision, to memorize miracles, and to note the lessons. He who learns to number his day resists ingratitude and forgetfulness. Now I want to lead you to one final reflection. Few have the courage to hear this, but it's necessary. The rush to secure everything, without knowing what is being sealed, destroys the diligent man. There are promises that imprison, and the only way to be free from them is through humility, not stubbornness. Pride tries to prove strength. Wisdom proves discernment. So, adopt the seal rule. Only seal commitments that you'd have the courage to explain before God and your family. Only give your word where your heart remains firm. And a practice I've kept with me for years, the gratitude calendar. Once a month, stop and write down what God has done. Note the open doors, the deliverances, the right counsel, the unexpected harvests, because spiritual amnesia is an enemy of prosperity, and the wise man does not allow himself to forget who sustained him, who guided him, and who established his hands. He who honors covenants sees God establish what he builds. Close your eyes for a moment now, take a deep breath, and surrender to the Lord the relationships that matter most. Maybe you're facing tension with a child. Maybe there's distance between you and your wife, or perhaps he's a business partner who no longer walks in the same purpose. Now surrender that name, that story, that alliance before God. Pray silently with me. Lord, calm my heart. Give me wisdom to restore what still has life, and courage to release what is not from you. Guide my steps in relationships, heal what is wounded, and protect what is strong. May every alliance made in your presence be sustained by your grace, and may every alliance that has strayed from you find redemption or release today, in the name of Jesus. Amen. Now, man who fears God, if you wish, write here in the comments the name of someone you want to reconcile with, or a relationship that needs divine direction, and also pray for another wise man here. Remember, what is sealed in prayer is established by heaven. And now, allow me to give you a seal of wisdom for this journey. Roots that sustain the fruit. I tell you clearly, biblical prosperity is not an event, it is a construction. Do you want God to establish your plans? Then consecrate your path, order your steps, and seal your alliances with reverence and truth. The tripod of prosperity does not stand on empty promises, but on three deep pillars. Practice. Plan with principles and execute with consistency. Purpose. Find meaning in God's rhythm, not in man's applause. Relationships. Build alliances that protect the plan and sustain the process. Today, choose three practical adjustments. First, an adjustment in your plan, something that needs to return to God's presence. Second, a discipline in your routine that will uphold your faithfulness even on the hard days. And then, the third, a gesture of peace, in a bond you know deserves reconciliation. Don't put off for tomorrow what the Spirit is whispering today. And finally, listen to what the King who speaks to you now declares with spiritual authority. What you have entrusted to me in truth, the Lord will establish. If this word found a place in your heart, practice it and share it with someone who is tired of going in circles and needs to rest in God. Because the prosperity that remains is born when the wise man hears and acts.